I want to welcome everyone to Art Spark Texas Community Conversation. And today we're going to be speaking with Denise Knebel, who is an artist and a veteran living here in Texas, living and working here in Texas. And welcome, Denise. We're very happy to have you. And with Denise is our director, Celia Hughes. And Celia's going to give the fancier introduction than I just gave. My name is Susan Slattery, and I'm the Director of Outreach with Art Spark Texas. But I'm going to send things over to Celia and Denise.
Okay, well, I'm thrilled to have Denise with me today, with us today. I've known Denise now for, I think, over 10 years. Yes. 2009 was when we had our first meeting, and you were in an exhibit prior to that. So a few years. We've been around for a few years. Denise first entered a competition. We were approached by the Texas Veterans Commission. They wanted to put together, I think it was a one-day exhibit for Veterans Day. And so we put out a call, we being the royal we, of course, April, putting out a call for veteran artists. And there was an ad in the San Antonio Express News. And so Denise saw it and entered. And we saw her work, and April was like, oh, this is, we really want to engage her and more. So we engaged you in being in another show at our gallery. We had this wonderful little gallery just down the street for a couple of years till they tripled the rent. Thank you very much. And but then from there, I thought, as the daughter of two veterans, and the fact that we were then VSA, and VSA had a long history with working with the Veterans Administration and working with veterans, I thought we really need to bring our veteran artists together and look at ways that we might be able to, and see if it's even important to single out and have particular exhibits or services that are for veterans only. And so we invited Denise and a number of veteran service providers to a meeting at the gallery. And it became very apparent very soon to me that, yes, that this was a good idea, and that Denise would be a good person to partner with moving forward in all of this. And so we gave her own show, which was fun. And I will say the one thing about Denise is that she's participated in our holiday shows, and we never know what we're going to get.
I don't know what I'm going to give you.
It's paintings, it's jewelry, it's pop-up dolls. It's a remarkable, and your brain is remarkable. So so I'm delighted that you're here. And Denise, so what got you started on this road to being an artist?
From the beginning?
From the beginning.
Okay. So I was born in New York in the Hudson River Valley. And I grew up there really loving just the scenery. And I think Texas is wonderful too, but I think New York is a beautiful state and tons of history. And of course, being in the Hudson River Valley, you can't help but like the Hudson River painters and everything. So I was kind of influenced by that as a child. But I knew I was an artist from very young. And I remember the first painting I did actually was a apple tree in an orchard, because I loved Macintosh apples and we had apple trees, and I just thought that was so beautiful, just the height of, sitting there in the sun with a juicy apple and sitting under the tree and everything. So that was the first painting I did, and I wish I still had it, because I would love to see. I've kept all of my girls' art just for this purpose, because I always think it's fun to go back and look at what you used to do. But Lord knows where that painting is right now. But I do remember that was my first one. And I had told Celia before that my Aunt Donna was very influential to me as I was growing up, because my aunt was the one who was already an artist. And so I really looked up to her, and she gave me my first oil painting set, which I actually just told her yesterday when I talked to her that I still have. And so she choked up a little bit on that one, but I still have those paints, and she gave me soft pastels. And it was just a bunch of experimentation. And, you know, when you're a kid, you're going to use whatever you can use, but art supplies really cost some money, you know? So my supplies were limited back then. We were not an affluent family whatsoever. But, you know, that meant that I kind of made sculptures with rocks, and I did stuff with dirt, and I carved stuff. And so it was looking for other things. So that kind of kept throughout my whole life. I really like to experiment with different stuff. And so when I eventually did graduate from college after I retired from the military, which I can tell you about if you want to know, I started full-time classes to be in to get my Bachelor of Arts degree in 2005. And I spent that whole time experimenting and just having fun. And I can't say I regret my time in the military, because I absolutely do not. It gave me a lot of inner turmoil and inner strength. It gave me a lot of stuff to draw from. And but I liked going to school, and I was one of those kind of people who was very serious about the military. Was very militant, I guess you might say. That's what my children would say. My husband would say, a pain in the ass. But you know, I had all that time, and I brought it out of the military with me, because that was my personality. That was me for so many years. And when I went full time to college at Our Lady of the Lake down in San Antonio, it was such a eye-opening thing, because I wasn't used to dealing with kids like that would get on the phone in the middle of a class when the professor's talking, and, you know, stuff like that. And I just was sitting back there with the eyes open going, what are you doing? How can you do this to your professor? That, you know, and they would sit there and not answer when the professor asked a question, and they would just kind of sit there with this blank stare. And it was just such a process for me to get acclimated to that environment, especially having been in the military.
Right.
And having been, this is the way everything is every day, for so long. And it was hard for me to kind of break out of that. So here I was, a kid who went in, having done art all this time and in high school and everything, and then got into the military track and totally accepted that, and came out, and, you know, the kids wearing pajamas to school and stuff like that. And I like about lost my mind. What the hell is wrong with you people? You know, what, don't you have any respect for yourself and your instructors and everything? And so that was a definite eye-opener for me. And I made so many friends with those young kids, and, you know, older students like myself, more experienced students like myself. But, you know, I've created some lifelong friendships with those younger folks who are now in their 30s. But they were younger back then. So it was just a really interesting process to have to go through. And when I graduated, I continued, I think, to go through that process, because it wasn't, you know, that whole military thing I was in for over 21 years, 23 years. And it took that amount of time to build what I was. And I wasn't going to get rid of it, you know, in 4 years and overnight. And I still carry a lot of those traits and everything.
I kind of like to think that one of the things that Denise did with us was we had, for a number of years, we ran artist residencies in San Antonio. VSA had a partnership with CVS. We like acronyms. And so CVS funded a lot of artist residencies that we did in elementary schools. And I don't think you were ever one of our teachers in that artist residency program. But then we moved it to the base. And so we were running summer camps for families of children with disabilities and their siblings. Mm-hmm. And so Denise ran those summer camps with us. And I like to think that helped also break some of your military rigidity, because they were, they had lots of, lots of different children, lots of family dynamics, sibling dynamics. Nothing that we planned went the way as it was planned. And Denise was in charge of all of that. And we did that for 3 summers, I think.
Yeah, 3 or 4.
Yeah, 3 or 4.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun.
She says with her tongue in
No,
cheek.
no, it was. It was. I never would have thought, knowing me, I never would have thought I would react so well to teaching children. I love to teach, but I did not have a lot of exposure to children. I have two of my own, but
But you
yes,
were away for a lot of their growing
I
up.
was. When I was in the military, I was TDY, temporary duty, a lot. And although it wasn't, as you hear a lot of folks say now, the typical deployments where you're gone for 6 months, 12 months, I would be home for 2 weeks, gone for a week, home for a week, gone for 3 weeks, home for a month, gone for 2 months, And I mean, that isn't to say that I did not have the year away from the family, things like that, because I did. But it was more so a continuous here for a week, gone for a week, here for a week, gone for a week. So my kids had I mean, it was my husband was mom and dad a lot, and the adjustment was really strange. And that's something a lot of military people and their families deal with is you're home and you're gone, and they make these dynamics when you're gone, and they're running the show and they're doing everything without you, and you come back and you want your place again, and you want to be a part of that family again, because for you it was you were over here doing a job, but now you're back with family, and now you feel good, you're back with family, and family doesn't need you anymore, and they've got their own thing going on. And when they used to ask you, they had the boo boo and they come running to you for the kiss and the cry, now they go running to daddy, or they go running to mommy, whatever it is. Being as I was the female, of course, that was gone, and they would go running to daddy, and I'm standing there going, where are you going? And so that, that's a kind of a hard adjustment. It made them stronger. My older daughter will tell you that she uh, has got quite strong because of that, because I was gone a lot. I was gone for birthdays and Christmases over and over and over again. And, it helped them develop, but it did make it weird.
Mm-hmm.
It did make it a weird family environment to try to readjust every time.
So do you think that has influenced your art and the things that how your art has gone and progressed? Because you really have. I've seen such a progression and a growth in you as an artist. But again, like I say, it seems like you're really processing and exploring not only different mediums,
Yes.
but different feelings and different ways of expression.
Oh, absolutely. Kind of what Celia is alluding to before I answer that question is when I was in the military, I used art a lot. When prior to going in the military, art was an enjoyment for myself because it made me happy. And I would say that I also used it therapeutically as a child too, because I had, like probably most people, a strange childhood. And that was always something I could run to, and that would comfort me. And so then when I was in the military, I would doodle through all staff meetings and stuff. The sides of my papers would all have doodles, and they'd like to test me and see if I was really listening. And I prove over and over again, I am listening to you. I'm just doodling as it helps me process. But when we did art at home, it was more of a therapeutic thing for my kids and I. And I would come back from having been gone in, say, a month, and I would get them together and we'd do an art project. And that would help us reconnect and start talking to each other again and laughing together and having fun, because it was hard to have to do that readjustment every time. And when are you leaving again? When are you leaving again? And so this was something that we could do together. And so that was very helpful for my children and myself. And my children both are extremely artistic. One is more of a theater person and the other one is more visual arts, but the theater daughter also is a very, very good artist. So it's been fun watching them too over all the years progress. But yeah, I mean, I've always been an artist, and then when I went to art school, I didn't know I was going to be able to do that. The BA paid for me to be vocationally rehabilitated, and I was happy that they were just going to pay for me to have a business degree. And when I was told I would be able to go to art school, I almost fainted because I never ever thought that was a possibility. So I went to art school, and then that process began. But yeah, when I went to art school, I was kind of annoyed at first because in my opening up and trying to develop myself as an artist, I guess I naturally went to a lot of feminist type stuff, but I didn't mean to, and I wasn't doing it consciously. And so when that was pointed out to me, I kind of got a little upset about that because I didn't want to be pigeonholed again after having just had this military experience for all these years and not really progressed with my art. I didn't want to now, oh, now I'm the feminist artist, you know? No, I don't want to be. Not that feminism is bad. I just didn't want to be down that road already.
Right.
You know, let me experiment. But, you know, it is what it is. And my subconscious was doing what subconscious does. And so I do a lot of feminist art, but I continue to play and practice. And so some of me wishes I was 25 years ago so that I could find that path. And but right now I'm still playing and practicing. And well, before I do that, did you have anything else that you
No, you've tried many different mediums, but now you told me you've kind of settled with oils.
Yes.
And pastels. No, oils and what was the
printmaking.
Printmaking, because you started out with printmaking. Was that where you really first got started, or
when I went to school?
Right.
It was, I always drew and did paintings with oil paints. Oil paints are one of the things, if I smell it, it just puts me in the best mood. Just, I'm sure a lot of you can understand if you do art. There are those smells that get to you. And oil paint is that for me. And my husband will walk into my studio, which I'm so lucky to have now. I actually have an art studio at home. Makes my heart glad. But I know I'm fortunate for that. But just the smell of paint has always been able to take me there. And so I love oil painting. But so I started out with drawing and painting in college, and then I took a printmaking class and was kind of like, oh, I love printmaking. So I started centering myself on printmaking and psychology. That's another story. But yeah, so printmaking, I started doing it, and I think one of the reasons that I like it so much is that you can have your basic print, and then you can modify it. And so you can have different versions of the same print and get many versions of the same print, and you can paint them. You can hand color them. And so I was getting like the best of both worlds. I was doing the drawing and I was doing this printmaking process, which I really just love the process itself, although it's really toxic. So that was kind of a downfall for that. But then you get to hand color your paintings. And so I had brought two examples of one, and I don't want to put this in Celia's face.
No, that's what you put it in my face. That's fine.
Okay, but this is, I went through, and I still actually am going through a period of doing skeleton art. So this is one of the skeleton art printed pieces, and this is another version of the same one. And I guess I'll tell you a little bit about that. Also, the skeletons I like doing because, and I've gone back to them for over 12, 14 years now. I've been going back to skeletons. So I have many versions of different skeleton art, because when I was in the military, one of my primary jobs was working mortuary affairs. And all out throughout my career, I would have to do different times. I would have to be engaged in mortuary affairs. So for instance, if someone killed themselves in their office, it was my career field's job to go and get them and recover the body. If there was an airplane crash, it was my career field's job to get and pick up the pieces and process the remains. Now, so I did that throughout my career at different times, not constantly, but at different times. And then a year before I retired, I was not deployed to Afghanistan or Iraq or anything like that. I was actually sent to the Doverport Mortuary. That's where I did my deployment duty, was at the Doverport Mortuary. And that's where remains are sent when somebody dies overseas. And so it was a number of weeks there. I was the head of the team for body handlers. And so that was a whole nother dimension, you know, that kind of places itself in your psyche and everything. And I needed a way to process that. When you're doing it and you're going through it, you're just so busy, you don't have time to dwell on the impact that it's making on you. But then when you go home and you have some time to try to start processing things, that's when you start losing sleep and, you know, these things bother you. So that duty on the one hand was some of the best I ever had because the people were just absolutely outstanding and it was an honor to serve those fallen heroes. But on the other hand, it was hard, you know. So in my process of trying to process that and then coming to San Antonio where, you know, the Day of the Dead was a big thing and Day of the Dead kind of art and the culture. And then in New York, even the Iroquois Indians also have legends of skeletons coming back to life, and of course other countries around the world. I just felt compelled to try to help heal myself to do skeleton art. And so I did, I did musicians playing for their cats and dogs, and I did a painter, of course, painting a woman, another skeleton, and I did this one here. I'm doing one now of a farmer, which just tickles me to death. It's a farmer milking a cow skeleton. So I just think that's funny. But anyway, so I'm working on that one right now.
The one that jumped out at me was the dancers lifting the ballerina up. That one just stayed with me, and that's when I said to April, "Who is this woman?" And I want to do a show for this woman. I remembered that.
Oh, thank you.
Because that was the painter with the great big pants on and the little bitty skeleton. Yeah, but it was the dance pose that I remember saying to April, "Who is this? We need to do a show for her."
Oh, thank you. So that's where the skeletons come from, and I have a bunch more ideas of skeletons that I'm going to do. But I was going to talk a little bit about my process. So what I do is I must have, like most artists, I think, I have tons of these sketchbooks. And I go in and I sketch, and then I periodically go back through my sketchbooks and I make notes, and I pull out ones that I want to do larger pieces from. And sometimes, you know, it's like every time I go back through, I never don't have ideas. Sometimes I have to get motivated to do the ideas just because, you know, sometimes you get a mental block of doing anything. But I always have ideas. And so when I get that kind of a block, I do the doodles. Except for now, I guess people are calling them tangles. I guess that's kind of what it looks like. Zentangles.
Yeah. Tangles, right.
Yeah, right. So it's like I have books, which, this one is better, of tangles, and just pages and pages of tangles. And I will go through because they've got little pictures inside them, and it's kind of like auto drawing, which I was really fascinated in, being as I minored in psychology. So you do the auto drawing, and you're supposed to draw and not even think about what you're drawing, and you're not supposed to try to draw anything. So it's really fascinating to me to go back through looking at the doodles and pick them apart and find a piece that I might want to do a larger piece on. And I had one, which I couldn't find before today, sorry, but it had a bunch of little bunnies in it. And I love bunnies, and I like to do caricatures and cartoons of bunnies. And so I saw these little bunnies, and I did do a bunch of big paintings of bunnies, naughty bunnies. I also did naughty bunnies. I also did naughty bunnies in sculpture. So, but one thing that I'm really interested in, that were I a bit younger, I think I would probably pursue a little more, besides art therapy, which I'm also really interested in, would be to do like illustration for children's books. I really like doing, you know, like really colorful drawings with all kinds of fantastical creatures and things like that. I would love to do illustration for children's books. And along with that, I also have had in the back of my mind for quite a while to do a biography, but in the graphic novel style. And I actually did part of that when I was in college, over sexual trauma. And so I did that in a book form during college. And then I have added to it a little bit since then, but I actually want to do the whole thing, and that's a huge project. So I've actually been looking for somebody to help me with that. So that's
putting it out to the universe.
Yeah.
If somebody wants to help.
That's another thing on the back burner, but it's like, holy cow, I'm almost 60 years old, and I'm not old to some people, but that's kind of old to other people, and it doesn't give me a lot of time left, really, you know? So I'm hoping I have like 30 more good years, and that's a lot of time to get some stuff done, but not near enough time to get everything I ever wanted to do done.
But
So,
you never stop.
no,
So,
no,
you know, there's never been a moment that you weren't doing or working on something.
right, exactly, exactly.
So I've been doing a lot of talking. Any questions out there? Here's a fun one.
She picked up my cows. So since now I live now I live out in the country, and actually when I say I was from New York and born in the Hudson River Valley, there's a lot of dairy farming there, if anybody doesn't know. And so I've always loved cows. But now I actually live between Bastrop and Gonzales, out in the middle of cow country. So I'm kind of doing portraits of all my neighbors. So this is two of my neighbors. And she was a little mad at me that I had the stuff hanging out of her mouth. I think she got a little offended at that, but.
And this is an interesting series.
Oh, yes. And I also brought a series of, one of the things I was experimenting with last year were gel pens and liquid watercolor. And so I started doing a series of these paintings. Kind of goes to the doodle thing, I think. If you look at them, they're kind of like chrysanthemums, I guess, and very fine lines, little details. And then it went to this one.
Those could be fabric, like fabric designs.
And I was thinking of wallpaper, you know.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
I actually was looking at that online. How do you turn art into fabric?
Oh, people do it. They do it. Those are beautiful.
Thank you.
Not
And
that I didn't like those skeletons, because boy, I liked those. Wow.
so that was probably about 3 weeks worth of just playing with different media, different types of paper, different ideas, but the same general idea. And I do that a lot. Did they have
Beautiful. Well, now, I think Jordan had a question that she was holding up her hand there.
Hi, Jordan.
Well, I did have a question, but I wanted to just say, you are such a good artist. I wanted to say it reminds me, like, not reminds me, but like kind of got that thing of Frida Kahlo, because that vibe, because Frida Kahlo, she paints what she feels, not what she sees. And so in that sense, it kind of reminds me of your art. And I recently went into her autobiography, and so that's how I'm able to figure that out. And so when I saw what you were talking about and saw your paintings, I just think it's so awesome and how you do that, you know, because it's so hard for someone like me who's just getting into oil pastels and oil paintings, and you know, to not paint what you see, but to paint what you feel is a really big thing. So that's really awesome.
Well, thank you.
I think that's so cool.
You're the first person who ever made that connection, but that's really awesome. I never thought of it that way, and that's pretty cool. I like that. Because,
And
I'm sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say, I also wanted to mention, I recently was trying to look for things to help me with this children's book that I was trying to make big. I think that I had shown it in one of the Lion and Pirates. It's I think I brought it out. It's called, this is the illustration. I'm not very good with painting, so this was all like silhouettes and things that I found that I just kind of put together on Canva. I know Canva can be used for many different things, and it's called Dance Carmen Dance. I didn't know if you were really interested in actually doing that, but I would love to work with you on that if you're really interested in doing that. I don't know if you are, but since you made a point of it, I would love to work with you on that.
Sure, that sounds like fun. It does.
Because I know you painted a picture of a dancer, which I saw. I think I saw it. Where did I see it? I saw it at Art Spark, right? Didn't you have it in the office, Celia?
gallery shows because we had it in the gallery. Well, and there was a print. There was a print in the bin at our holiday shows. So
Yes, that was the one. Yes, I was like, was it in the office or was it in room 101? I couldn't remember, but yeah, I was like, as soon as I saw that, I was like, wait, I was thinking about it. I was like, this is the artist. I got to have her help me.
That's cool. That's great. I would like to do that. Yeah.
I'll
Oh,
tell you more about it some other time though, because I'm kind of keeping up your time right now.
We can put you in touch with Jordan very easily.
Okay,
Y'all
good.
can talk more on that. I have a question about your printing technique that you used for the those first prints that you showed us. Is that what is that, an engraving type print?
All of the, I do engraving and etchings. These are etchings. So they're done on the metal with the acid.
Okay, yeah.
So, and it's also aqua tinted.
Okay.
Background fuzziness gives it more texture and dark. Yeah.
Right.
So it is an aqua tint.
And then you
and then I hand color them with watercolor.
So do you have a printing press?
I do have my own printing press.
I wondered when I saw that. Cool. It's been a long time since I've done printmaking because I really enjoy painting and drawing. But yeah, I was like, oh, I bet she's got a printing press. Cool.
Yeah, the worst part though is the toxicity of the with oil painting. A lot of the oil paint is toxic, and the turpentine and everything. And then of course with printmaking, the traditional print ink is very toxic.
Oh, very. Yeah.
And trying to clean up is really what gets you in doing the aqua tint and everything. It really is a very toxic process. And so I actually year before last, and then last year a lot. That was one good thing about the pandemic, I could say, is that I had ample time to work on my art, and I used it. I made a lot of stuff last year. But I had begged my husband for a printing press, and he actually bought me one for Christmas one year. So
that's an amazing gift. Wow.
Yeah, I was really happy about that. And like I said, now I have my own studio, and so I'm like a mouse with cheese, man. I'm happy. It's great. It's great. So, but I started the year before last, and then last year working with Akua printmaking ink, and so it's AKAU. No, AKUA. And it is a like vegetable based oil so that you can clean it up with soap and water. The bad part is if you just leave it, say like on butcher paper or something, it will never ever dry out. But if you put it on paper, it absorbs into the paper enough after time that it is permanent. But it still never dries out. But it becomes like a part of the paper, basically, so it won't smudge and everything. So if any of y'all want to play with printmaking, but you don't like the toxicity of most of the ink and cleanup that comes along with that, try the Akua products. They're a little bit different in their viscosity and everything, but they're really so much cleaner than the other types of ink. So
was it different? Did you have to learn how to use that ink? Was it a whole different kind of printing?
Well, it was a lot easier in some senses because printmaking ink, if you've ever done printmaking, you have to modify the ink dependent upon what the temperature that it is outside and what you're spreading it on, and your type of paper, and is it an etching or is it an engraving, and is it short or long ink, and you have to do all these things to it to get it to do what you want it to do. With this Akua ink, it's a lot more liquidy. It's not as stick it together, you can't pull it apart kind of thing like that. So that does take some getting used to, because you expect the ink to stay in your grooves of your printing plates, and with the Akua it kind of pulls it out more. So yeah, it is a process to learn it. And so that's part of what I was doing last year was learning how to use those products. So
But your liver is happy.
yes. Yeah. Yeah, I got to tell you, that's some crazy stuff, man. But I have another watercolor, but it also has, what do you call it, thread. I sewed in it too. So that was another thing I experimented with, is an auto type drawing, but it's got the sewing on the sides, and I really like how that came out. So I'm probably going to do more of that, mixed media. I've tried mixed media a lot of times because I really like the look when it's done well. There's a lot of crap out there that's not done well. And I like the look when it's done well, but it's really hard to make it look good. If you've ever done mixed media, it's really, really hard to make it not look like a jumble of crap pasted on a piece of paper and actually make it look nice, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, 'cause
I've
this
thrown
almost-
away a lot more than I've kept.
This almost looks like the flower is real or some kind of a collage, but it isn't. It's a painting. Well, I don't know if I'm. Is this a self-portrait, Denise?
I don't know. It might have been one of the days my husband made me mad. I don't know.
Little self-portrait there. Okay.
Oh.
We don't know.
And here is another one. It doesn't really have an up or a down, but if you look at it, you can see spiders. And there are a couple of spiders in there. And that's because out in the country, boy howdy, Texas has some gigantic damn spiders. So in an effort to connect with my newly chosen home of Texas, I've been trying to connect with the land like I had with New York, because I still do a lot of landscapes from New York, and I lived in Europe for a number of years, and I do a lot of landscapes of Europe, and I like the way those look. But I also like to do weird stuff. So it's all combining now in my head, and this was one of the ones that was just an auto drawing, but the spiders came in, and the circles right there are because that morning they happened to have beads of dew on the web. So then I started doing a large painting of the cows behind a big giant spider with the web, and the cows are the little ones behind the web. So that's an ongoing one that I'm doing right now. It's taken me longer than I thought it would. So
Well, is this the tarantula that you freed?
no,
that
no,
you freed?
no, that's a cute little jumpy spider.
Oh, okay.
But this is the big golden orb weaver.
Oh, the golden orb weaver, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Her daughter released a tarantula into the wild.
Well, it was a wild tarantula that they caught, but they released it back into the wild because he was getting horny, and he was making webs. I guess and then he was, yeah. So I learned a lot more about tarantulas than I wanted to know.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so they brought it out and released it into the wild. But I've never seen any tarantulas out there, so hopefully he finds a lady. No, he was ready for it. Let's just put it that way, from what I understand. So
Do we have tarantulas in the wild in Texas? I didn't
oh,
know.
yeah, this
Oh, yeah.
this tarantula actually was caught with a bunch of other ones at my friend's house in Garden Ridge.
I'm suddenly itchy thinking about this.
Yeah, they just bought this house in Garden Ridge, and she went out and put the furniture outside for her sons to sit on, and there were, like, in not very much time, there were tarantulas all over the place. And so she was freaking out a little bit, and she asked anybody if they wanted some tarantulas, and my daughter was like, yeah. So they went and got a tarantula. So
I've only seen one in the wild, and it was in Big Bend.
oh
It was the size of a saucer,
wow.
you know. That
And then stick bugs.
yeah, stick bugs.
The
Are cool.
stick bugs are gigantic out here. I mean, in San Antonio, because I lived in San Antonio for, well, 20 something years, longer than I lived in New York. So Texas is home now. But you get stick bugs like this out here. You can tell me they're huge. They're huge. So they're making it in my art too. And I actually, when I find dead insects, a lot of times I will incorporate them into my paintings.
The actual insect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I have some in there with the dragon, because I love dragonflies. And we have beautiful dragonflies. And I put a number of the dragonflies in my work, and we also have scorpions in the house. So the scorpions make it into my paintings too. So my
Wow.
next my next idea is
So I'm
that
thinking about wallpaper and fabric designs with bugs and that could be interesting.
well, and then I experimented also with some paper, and you take the different grasses and leaves and all of that, and you use it as a natural dye. You roll it all up and you dye it. And so I tried that too, and put scorpions in there. They really don't dye well. Well, I mean, they do dye well, but they don't dye well. Yeah. So I gave up on the scorpions as part of my collage effort there. But yeah, I did that for a couple of weeks, and I thought that was pretty cool. And I like alternative photography too. I like doing pinhole camera type photography. And I actually have an area where I can make a dark room in my bathroom in my studio. And so I think that that's on the horizon again, because I had to kind of put that stuff away when we moved. But I really like the effect of pinhole cameras and how it makes the subject look. It just gives us a vibe that I really, really like. And like I said, I've been doing a lot of landscapey type stuff because I'm trying to make that connection with Texas now that it's our forever home. And what was I going to say?
You said that your next project, what you were going to be starting on next.
I got a million of them.
It sounds like it, and I love it. I love that it's like every day you wake up and you can choose from 20 projects, or your morning, your afternoon, your evening project.
Well, and some people have criticized that and that, well, but you're not concentrating enough on one thing. Well, then people will know you for that, and then they'll want to buy your stuff. You're too all over the place. And I look like this. I thankfully have the ability to be able to do that. So I'm going to do that. So I'm going to do what I want to do. So hopefully I connect, that gives me more opportunity to try to connect with people. So hopefully I'll connect with somebody for my art. They'll like something. And but like I said, I like doing the cartoony stuff even sometimes. I did a series of people in different spots in Europe, but I don't have any of those with me, darn it, but maybe I can post one after or something. But they are caricatures, but overblown caricatures, and you would have to see it, I guess, to understand that. But I love doing those too. And I figure I can start doing those for like Austin and Dallas and everything too.
Absolutely.
So,
well, and if you've come to the show for the last 2 years, our holiday show, we had some little pop-up dolls.
yeah.
And Denise did those. We had a pop-up doll of a woman. There was a snowman.
Mm-hmm.
There was an old man.
Yeah, I like when I went to Czechoslovakia, they had kitchen witches. I don't know if anybody's ever seen kitchen witches.
I've heard of it.
They had kitchen witch marionettes, and I just fell in love with them. And I've always liked odd looking doll type creatures, but not ones that look like possessed baby dolls, but so I saw those kitchen witches and I thought, oh my gosh, I really like that. So I started making kitchen witches, and I actually did that while I was still in the military. I made a few of those, but I then was like, well, how can I do these kitchen witch figures but in a different way? So I started doing the pop-ups, and I know last time I did one of a woman on the beach kind of thing, and it kind of I had Celia in the back of my mind. Okay, and she's got shells all in her hair and like seaweed, and she's holding pearls and stuff, and it's just one of the like the little pop-ups you bring her down and she.
Well, I need to buy that one.
Oh, well, I was hoping you'd see it and go, that's me.
Well, Denise, I guess a couple things. Are you currently showing with do you have any galleries that you're working with or representing you, or, where are you putting your work out there?
I had joined the Bastrop Lost Pines organization.
Yes.
But during the pandemic, I kind of lost touch with that. So yes, I need to get back with them. So the short answer to your question is no, except for ArtSpark right now. But I
Mhm.
intend to go back and get going again with the Lost Pines.
Both sides, yeah.
Yeah. Um, Beyond that, I am deficient in having a website. I really need to get that going. I've been saying that for 10 years, and I still haven't done it because that's just not where my skill set lies. And I really need help with that. And so, were my older daughter here, she would do all that for me because she's getting her own set up. But I really myself need to find somebody to help me with that because it's just not my skill set. And
Mhm.
I've taken pictures of my artwork and everything, but that all needs to be organized. It all needs to be put out there in the right format and the whole 9 yards. And I'm totally willing to do that. It's just, it's not my thing. And so I've got to find somebody to help me with that. And unfortunately, out there with the cows, they don't have that skill set either. And so, I don't know where I'm going to find somebody out there to help me with that. But I figured maybe I can put an announcement on our local page or something, and I can get some young high school or a senior in high school or something, and they can come and help me. And they're probably a heck of a lot better at navigating the computer and all of that and making a web page than I am. So I think I'm going to have to go that route because really I got to get that done. It's just silly that it's not done.
That sounds like a good idea. And I don't think it should be too much trouble to find, somebody that can do something with letterpress, and get your website up. But barring that, and I know there's a lack of Wi-Fi issue where you live, but I'm a huge fan of Instagram. Yes, yes. Denise is currently in the ArtSpark office, far from home. Well, not that far, but far enough. Um, I'm a big fan of Instagram for artists, for just a way of putting your images up there. But yeah, you would have to have the Wi-Fi to be able to access it. But I like the fact that so many artists are on Instagram and that it's a very visual medium, and you can write a little something about what you're doing, and you're so expressive and very tuned in to what you're thinking about with your art. I love hearing about your pieces, and I know other people would as well. So it's something to think about. Are you going to get Wi-Fi?
If it were available to us, we'd have it already.
Okay.
We have HughesNet, and it's just not powerful enough.
HughesNet, yeah. Is that Howard Hughes?
I don't know. Yeah. Supposedly, some of the new billionaires coming from California. Maybe that'll improve it, and maybe we'll finally get it out there. But yeah, right now. And my husband works from home, and it's quite challenging for him because he's an engineer, and so yeah, he can't even get it for himself to, and he really needs that too. So
You got to get that Bastrop ISD to drive one of their school buses with the remote Wi-Fi out there. Yeah, I mean that's what they're doing to the far-flung places here in Austin where there's not Wi-Fi. They've got school buses going out and parking for the kids for remote Wi-Fi. At least they were last year. I guess they'll do it again this
yeah,
year. Yeah.
please.
Please,
Well,
please.
my
We want
my
to hear. We want to hear and see what you're doing more. You want to keep up with that. I saw that you had some pieces that Celia had shared, some images that were fruit and kind of bulbous, kind of still life, and I really liked those.
Thank you. When I say like that traditional thing from the Hudson River school type thing, and it's a landscape that looks like a landscape, and I also really like still lives, still like with the fruit and everything, but and I know that would sell, but the traditional thing, I love to look at it and I appreciate it that it's so photorealistic. I just really love that.
Right.
But I want to do that in a new way. So that's kind of where that came from, the odd looking fruit. I
Yeah, I
actually
like that. Yeah.
I actually painted all my fruit from in my kitchen, And so I have paintings around my kitchen too that are the traditional still life look. But yeah, I just wanted to make it still life, but updated, more contemporary. And so I do a lot of those actually.
Yeah, this definitely caught my eye. I don't know, does anyone else have some other comments or questions for Denise?
She talks too much, right?
I had a question. So Jordan made that comparison to your practice being very similar to Frida Kahlo, and I was wondering, who do you personally draw your inspiration from?
My gosh, there are so many. I just lost her name.
What she do?
Oh my gosh, I just lost her name. She's passed away. She passed away in the 80s. She used to do pictures of all paintings of all celebrities in the 70s and 80s. She's an older woman. She did a lot of self portraits of herself naked, and I'm just gonna pop it in my mind as soon as I get away from the computer here.
Susan, do you have any idea who she's
I
talking
do. I think I do know.
It's I can't.
Neil? Neil?
Yes.
Yes. Boom.
Alice.
Okay. Allison. Yes. Yeah.
Thank
Woo!
you. Gosh.
Yeah.
But anyway, I really liked her work, and I do a lot of self portraits, as most artists do, because we're here with ourselves all the time. We're our easiest person to get, right? So I do a lot of self portraits, but I actually started doing nude self portraits, and I would have, I thought it would be a lot harder for me to put myself out there like that, but it wasn't as hard as I thought it would be. And I kind of, that was definitely, is a definitely therapeutic thing for me, because it's a statement about military sexual trauma, and then sexual trauma prior to as a child type thing. And so it's kind of like taking your strength back again. So I was really drawn to her, Alice Neal's style, and also her subject matter. And she would also do portraits of her daughters-in-law, like when they were pregnant, of their big naked bellies and stuff like that. And I just thought that that was so cool, those types of pictures. And I actually also do like Frida Kahlo. I do like her work. And I'm a big Dali art fan, not a Dali as a person necessarily, but Dali as his art. I really, really have always liked Dali also. And there are actually a few female contemporary artists that I really also like. So I guess I would have to say, when people put themselves out there and show a real side of themselves, are the ones that I really appreciate. When they're not afraid to put it all out there and make a statement with their art.
Yeah.
What about you? What do you like, Lindsay?
I'm still exploring the art world. I like the simplicity of oh my gosh. Okay, his name just escaped me. He does just squares, and it's usually a gradient from like a lighter color to a darker color. And he has an exhibit in Houston.
Trying to call Grandma.
Oh, her phone is alarming, so she'll be back in a second. So
I'm sorry.
Okay.
My phone was telling me it was time to call Grandma. Okay, go ahead.
I can't.
Is it a Texas artist?
Is this
Not
Rothko?
wait, can you say that? It is Rothko.
Oh, Rothko.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Celia, boom.
Yeah. See, I didn't find one. Yeah. Rothko, just you get fully absorbed in the color, and I think that's what I appreciate most. Just simplicity and just fully absorbing yourself.
Do you like creating art like that, or you just appreciate looking at art like that?
More so appreciating. Yes.
Yeah.
I haven't tried my hand at creating like much visual art, but I would love to get into it. I'm starting out like doodling and stuff, kind of like what you said. Yeah, just getting into doodling.
Well, you definitely can't go wrong with that. Just let yourself
Right.
go.
Yeah, I'm thinking that, I was a big doodler always, but I've kind of gotten more away from a lot of that. I might draw as part of what I'm writing something, but that free drawing, that just free drawing idea, I kind of want to get back to that, because I think that those, like you had the tarantula and other things that you were visually being influenced by, and then they're all kind of turning up in one of those just free drawing, that there's a lot of truth in there, if nothing else, some truth, and maybe ideas that you could combine,
Yes, absolutely.
create.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that idea. Yeah,
But
cool.
now every time I go back through all of those books, because I probably have like 30 of them, I make notes. So now that they have notes, and so I'll usually not doodle on the back of the page so that I can make notes that correspond to the next page. So that's something to think about too. Give yourself a place to, in the future, make notes about it or refine a drawing if you want to do that. So
You're like super left brain, right brained. I
know.
love it. Yeah. And no, I identify with that. So but yeah, and it obviously is serving you very well.
Yeah, well, the military just won't let go.
No.
mean,
It serves me well, it does. I got over
Sorry.
the initial few years of my husband wants to kill me, because I was home all the time and driving him nuts, to now everything is fine. So I bring out the military part of me when it's so, I'm a
Can you
flat
tell
instructor.
me what was the name of the other artist besides Alice Neal and Dolly? What was the other artist's name that you admired or liked?
I do like Frida Kahlo, and like I said, Dolly and Alice Neal, and what the heck is that? If I had my phone, I would pull it up, but
she does a lot of self-portraits with herself with bruising and things. Does that sound familiar at all?
like in Squished, like she's a voluptuous woman, and so she's like photographs and paintings of herself squished against glass or beat up, like family violence, things like that.
I think I've heard of her.
For me right this second, but anyway, but that's what I'm saying is those type artists who show themselves, are not afraid to show themselves in an unflattering light to get a point across. I appreciate that type of art.
That one's not ringing a bell.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look it up.
I'm definitely gonna look her up. But we are a few minutes after 8.
Yeah.
I'm sure everybody needs it. You have to drive back to your
Cows.
rural abode, to your cows. And anybody have any final?
Well, I wanted to show her my coasters that I made that are Frida Kahlo. I wanted to share real quick. That's why I went and got them. I made these with my circuit machine, so they're just super fun and easy. I'm selling them at a vendor event that's going to be in Buda. So I'm doing a bundle. I did a whole bundle, but that's just 2 of the Frida Kahlo.
Cool.
Those are cool. I like them. Well, thank you all so much for listening to me, and I'm glad that we got to talk to each other.
Thank you to our ArtSpark Texas funders: Texas Commission on the Arts, St. David's Foundation, Cultural Arts City of Austin Economic Development, Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation, Austin Public Library, Donald D. Hamill Foundation.